Greetings. I'm delighted to be present with you here today, and I would like to first congratulate Ellie and ICAM on reaching their 20th anniversary. ICAM has accomplished a great deal in its first 20 years, and I'm looking forward to additional accomplishments in the next 20. So my overview of the slides, I'm looking at the historical development of international animal protection organizations, some of the major organizations and their founding dates, look at the number of organizations by continent, funding of international animal protection, and then I have a couple of comments on dogs in the developing world and the 21st century status. So when one looks at the historical development of the modern animal protection movement, one goes back to 1825 and the founding of the RSPCA in England, and the first 100 years were formation organizations basically modeled after the RSPCA established around the world, and then a gradual increase of organizations globally. There were, in fact, international meetings of the animal protection movement starting from 1860 onwards, and most people have no idea that there was such a vibrant international movement in those early days. But even back in the League of Nations, when the League of Nations was formed, there was a proposal that the League of Nations should adopt a World Animal Day, and that was identified as being on St. Francis' feast day, which is October the 4th. St. Francis actually died on October the 3rd. So the first movements, of course, were basically exported versions of the RSPCA. And then from 1900 to 1915, there were several international animal welfare congresses in different parts, different countries. The 1930s, there was an international congress held in Germany. The Nazi leadership tended to sort of promote animal protection. And in fact, one of the earliest mentions of concentration camps was a threat to put research scientists into concentration camps in Germany. In 1950 to 1970s, we saw a tremendous growth of the animal protection organizations. In 1953, World Federation for Protection of Animals was founded, and then in 1959, ISPA, the International Society for Protection of Animals, was founded. WIFPA tended to be based on the continental Europe. ISPA was an RSPCA creation. And then in 1969, IFOR was founded in the United States. And then in 1981, WIFPA and ISPA merged into the WSPCA, into WSBA. So here are the actual dates, plus some of the funding for international animal protection that these organizations provide. So you've got ASPCA used to be involved with international animal protection, it is no longer. World Federation for Protection of Animals and ISPA are no longer with us, but they have been combined into WISPA in 1981. The World Animal Net was an initiative that has now been basically sort of taken into the World Federation for Animals, the 2020 organization, international organization. And then we have a number of other groups that have international programs: Asia for Animals, ACT Asia, African Network for Animal Welfare, the Soy Dog Foundation in Thailand, the SPCA International from the United States, the Brook, the Donkey Sanctuary, SPANA, a host of different organizations that are focused on international animal protection. WISPA, the income grew dramatically by 20% a year from 1980 to 2000, subsequently being sort of leveled off. And WISPA basically has been programs on wildlife, on companion animals, on farmed animals, and education, and especially disaster response. IFOR is the largest international animal protection organization with a total income of 100 million plus worldwide. It used to have a companion animal program, but now focuses on animals in crisis and distress, wildlife and habitat issues, and protection against trade. And so here is a chart showing the number of animal protection organizations in different continents and the animal protection organizations per million. And you can see North America has the highest number at 20.68 per million organizations per million people. Asia is 0.07, but Asia has had a big increase in animal protection organizations in the last couple of decades. So this was basically done in 2000 and was based on World Animal Net data. But there's been a reformation of, or a renaissance of animal protection in Asia, in South America, and in Africa. So these numbers would be very different today than they were back then. But back then in 2000, Europe and North America and Australasia were the areas with the greatest proportion of animal protection organizations. And looking at funding in 2005 and 2024, you can see that there's been a big increase, almost a doubling of animal protection expenditures in those 19-year period. And the organizations have different foci. So I4 is now endangered species, disaster and habitat. WISPER is everybody and also disaster. RSPCA focuses on Eastern Europe, Africa, and the Far East. HSI has expanded from a $4 million to a $35 million operation, and it's now the Humane World for Animals. And they had a major program on UN and treaties, and also then on other uh, uh, campaign areas like dogs, humane slaughter, and equids. Peter is spread around the world, and I'm not sure what the actual funding for international animal protection by Peter is today, but I estimate it's about 15 million, maybe 20 million, maybe even more. Eurogroup is still a relatively small operation, but Eurogroup was the first political lobby to be established in the early days of the EEC. Seymour Rouse of the RSPCA persuaded his bosses at the RSPCA that they should establish a lobby. And so Eurogroup has been around for many years and was remarked as one of the most effective lobbies in Europe back in its early days. Viafotin, I'm not sure how much money Viafotin was raising and spending in 2005, but it's 40 million or more. It's difficult to find out precisely how much Viafotin is spending because they isolate their income by country. And so you have to go to each country organization in order to figure it out. And that's more trouble than it was worth. And then there's a variety of others. Spanner is one, the Brook is another, World Horse Protection, the Donkey Sanctuary. There are a bunch of other organizations that deal with animal protection issues, and I estimate that their spending has basically doubled. So you've got Europe and America. There's been a 3 to 4-fold increase in animal protection funding in the USA in the last 25 years. Costa Rica now has similar attitudes to USA, some really interesting stuff happening in Costa Rica with people basically taking the animals, the dogs, into their homes at night, not letting them roam on the streets. And so there's been a big change in the human-dog relationship in Costa Rica in the last 20, 25 years. Latin America eliminated the dog rabies threat as a result of a Pan-African Health Organization campaign to get the dogs vaccinated. Many new organizations in Latin America focusing on dogs and animal welfare more broadly. Africa, there's a growing interest in animal welfare. The UNEA resolution of a few years back and the African Union actions. African Union has the IUBAR, which is basically agricultural focus on what's going on with animal agriculture across Africa. And the NSPCA in South Africa is basically has a national law establishing it, and so it is backed up by constitutional law in South Africa. In Asia, you have a major growth of animal protection. Asia for Animals, FIAPA, the Indian organization that's pulling together the animal protection groups in India, and China, a huge increase in shelter rescue organizations over the past 10, 15 years. India is a particularly interesting country. It's probably got the best animal protection legislation in the world. It doesn't really implement it particularly effectively. But you've got FIAPO that was founded in 2010 to unite the animal protection movement in India. You have this Indian Supreme Court action in 2025 that led to a major upheaval re animal birth control and dog management after a girl in Delhi died of rabies. That's still working through the legal system. But there's been some interesting developments in India in terms of dog bites and rabies incident. The support of local animal NGOs in India has grown dramatically. Biggest now have annual budgets of more than $500,000. Mission Rabies is very active in India, especially in Goa, and now in Bengaluru and in Chennai. Veterinarians Beyond Borders and HSI have been doing dog management work in Jamshedpur, in Uttarakhand, in Rajkot, in Lucknow, and other places across India. Mayhew and Mission Rabies are both active in Ranchi, in northern India, and French organizations have been supporting help in suffering in Jaipur. But here's the interesting thing about India. From 2003, there was a major assessment of rabies and dog bites in India carried out by the Association for Prevention of Rabies in India. And then in 2023, there was a follow-up study that looked at the same data or looked at the same issues. And dog bite numbers have dropped from about 15 to about 6 per 100,000 people, so gone down by almost 2/3. And the estimated total of human rabies deaths has dropped from 20,000 to 5,726. A startlingly precise figure for a country the size of India per annum. But so you have this big decrease in both dog bites and in human rabies deaths. And nobody's really sort of commented on it nor sort of discussed why it's happened. But I would argue strongly that it's been driven mostly by NGO work in terms of promoting ABC's animal birth control across the country, in sterilizing and vaccinating dogs across the country. And so it would be nice to have that confirmed with actual scientific assessments. But that's my speculative conclusion of what's been happening in India. So global dog findings, one of my particular bugbears is that everybody says that 70% of dogs global dog population are unhomed or homeless. In actual fact, when you go country by country and you start looking at the relative numbers, about 60% of dogs are homed in one sense or another. They're claimed by a particular household, and 40% are homeless. And there are about 1 billion dogs across globally. That's a huge number for the relatively small canid. Um, uh, Jackals and coyotes, probably 400,000. So for a billion dogs is a lot of dogs. Sterilization projects have been done worldwide in countries everywhere. And generally what you find is that sterilization improves both body condition and the general health of dogs. So that sterilization has more than just a population control impact, it also has a dog welfare impact. Sterilization vaccine programs reduce rabies incidence and also dog bites. So in Jaipur, for example, the number of the dog bite incidence has dropped from about 600 per 100,000 to about 200, gone down by 2/3, following the implementation of an ABC, an active implementation program by the NGO. And sterilization programs change, we think, but there's not a lot of good evidence showing that human behaviors towards dogs. And finally, animal protection funding has grown nationally and internationally. It looks to me as though international funding has doubled in the last 25 years. And the major focus of international animal protection is on dogs and increasingly now cats, on working equids, on farmed animals, on wildlife issues, and then you've got a variety of other issues that pop up in one country or another: animal research, circuses, dolphin area, elephant riding, are some of the other issues that you see being raised by organizations in different parts of the world. So basically, huge increase in animal protection activity globally in the last 20, 25 years, and a lot of work done on dogs and cats, which is the area that ICAM is particularly interested in. Specifically, really interested in what's happening in India, because it seems as though we are seeing a major change in both dog bite numbers and also human rabies cases. I would remark, by the way, that in India, the media are unhelpful in these issues. The media basically latch on to claims that dog bites are going up, and the dog bite rates are going up in some cities, but overall in the country, it looks as though dog bite rates are falling by about 2/3. So there's been a major change in that human-dog interaction in India. So thank you very much for the time. Really excited to be part of ICAM's 20th anniversary conference. Take care.